What's going on, my YouTube people? How's everyone doing? I'm back with another video, guys. I'm really excited about this one. Just to let you know in advance, right off the bat, guys, this video is going to be a long one. Um, I didn't have any specific plans on what to talk about for this video. I'm really just going to let it fly, and just wherever this video takes me is where it is going to take me. But this particular video I've wanted to do for a while now. Seems to be the most popular comparison that I do when I do these comparisons with these TVs. Just like I did a comparison between the G3 and the A95K with this particular movie, Avatar: Way of the Water, and it seemed just to get tons of feedback about it and what people's personal opinions were. And this particular movie with this type of comparison that I'm doing, I just think is a perfect combination because these TVs are literally built and designed for movies like this, 4K, UHD, HDR. This is in physical disc. The last one I did, last comparison I did was with streaming and low bit rate content, things like that. But this particular video, I wanted to really show what these TVs can do and what they look like when they are compared to each other through physical disc and at their highest, most optimal, excuse me, performing manner that they can possibly perform in. So, without further ado, guys, just to let you know, that we are in HDR10. We are going to be showing different presets, picture presets. I will talk about some settings in this video, and we are just going to really see what these TVs are capable of doing with each other. Or against each other, I should say. So without further ado, as you guys can see right here, we have all the way to the left, excuse me, the beautiful 77-inch Samsung S95C. All the way, or I'm sorry, in the middle, we have the 2023 TV of the year, which is the 77-inch Sony A95L. And then all the way to the right, we have pretty much one of the most recommended TVs for picture enthusiasts out there, which is the 77-inch LG G3. Now, just keep in mind that when we run these comparisons, guys, I'm going to be flipping through some different presets. I will be talking about, again, some of the picture enhancement settings. And right now, let's get right into it. So, as you guys will see, I'm going to start with the LG G3 and just let you guys know what the initial settings are. As you guys can see, I am going to be starting in standard mode. The reason why I'm going to be starting in standard mode is because I personally feel that most people, when they're at home, are watching their movies in standard mode. I just feel the reason why that is because it's a different experience when you're at home versus when you're at the movies. And when you're at home, I just feel like you want your TV, excuse me, to be brighter for that bright, colorful experience of what your TV can do. So just to show you guys, as you can see right here, we are in standard mode. And then, of course, I will flip through filmmaker mode, just to let you guys see what they look like in filmmaker mode. And I will also show you some settings that they are currently in right now. So again, let's go to, picture, and then we're going to go down. All right, so as you guys can see, pixel brightness at 100, adjust contrast is 100, black levels at 50. I have auto dynamic contrast off. I do have dynamic tone mapping on. Now, let me just tell you guys, I know that a lot of people are going to be fighting me on this, but I personally really enjoy watching these TVs in standard mode with dynamic tone mapping on. I just enjoy it. I do notice where it can blow out, excuse me, certain scenes like in highlights and things like that, where you lose detail. But when you're watching a movie as colorful as, as Avatar, I just feel like you're sacrificing one or the other, and I am not willing to sacrifice the vivid colors and that just those vibrant colors that you lose when you're in filmmaker mode versus standard mode with dynamic tone mapping on. I just feel like the picture just pops better. The black levels still look good, but anyways, that's just a personal opinion. Expression enhancer I do have on brightness. Now you can always turn that down a little bit more towards detail, which I do like a lot too, or you can completely turn it off. But as you guys can see, when you turn it off, it does kind of wash out some colors, things like that. So but yeah, detail I think is probably my favorite mode. Brightness, I just kept it on brightness just to show you the brightness level that it can get to when it's on brightness in standard mode. And then peak brightness, of course, is going to be on high, and that's the rest there. So now you'll go to color. Now I did put the color up to 75, and I know what you guys are thinking, that that's nuts. You're crazy. But again, I personally mostly keep my color down to about, on the LG G3, to about 50 to actually even 59 or 60, depending on what I'm watching. But for some reason, when I'm watching this particular movie in standard mode or even in filmmaker mode, I like the color up. And let me just tell you guys right now, that is usually not the case, full disclosure. I usually do have the color down more. I don't notice really losing any, significant amount of detail when I put the color up. I know a lot of people say you can lose certain details in certain colors. I think the only time I really start to notice losing details is, let's say, in peak brightness scenes and things like that. I do sometimes notice where I'm not getting the detail that I know I can get if my color was brought down some. But in most cases, when you're watching a movie, especially like this, the vibrancy or the saturation of the colors just really, I would say, trump or override any of those details, just because it's just so much fun and such a it's so eye pleasing with the colors that you really kind of forget about those either shadow details, details and highlights and things like that. Again, that's a personal opinion. So I know there are people out there that completely disagree with that, but that's pretty much how I feel when I'm watching movies like this, basically. So now, as you guys know, I do have color gamut on auto detect. So I believe when it's on auto detect, it's gonna, as you can see, if I flip back between auto detect and dynamic, it's the same. There's literally almost no difference. So, but either way, I keep it on auto detect, and that's where I kind of stand with that. Clarity. Now, super resolution, I do have right now, excuse me, on high. I don't really see it doing anything, but the reason why I keep it on high is because if you read the description of what it does, it says this feature is used to make blurry and crushed parts of the image clear. This feature is not available while connecting to a PC. So just in case I do use that, I don't see it having an effect or any improvement or any downgrade at all. But again, I just keep it on high just in case. If I were to turn it off, you will see it literally does nothing. Or if I keep it on low or medium, it literally does nothing. Now, noise reduction I do have on medium. MPEG noise reduction, I do keep on low. Smooth gradation, I do have on high. A lot of times I really do keep it on low. On most of my content, movies like this, I do tend to put it on high. I do feel like I get a little bit more better gradation on high through this through the LG G3. True motion. Now, let me just tell you guys, usually I do keep true motion off in most movies. For some reason, I don't know why. It's maybe my sensitivity to motion, judder, but I notice if it's on cinematic movement, just getting tons of judder. That's just how I'm seeing it. I can't do natural. I notice it too. But smooth movement, I'm really digging. And I know that's not really ideal, but it just, for some reason, it just, for me, makes the picture look a lot better, the motion look a lot better in smooth movement for this movie. So just to let you guys know, I usually do either have it off or cinematic, but I don't know what it is. It just bothers me in this particular movie to watch that. So call me crazy, but that's just what I've noticed. So again, we are in standard mode. So let me back out. Now I'm going to go to the excuse me, the A95L. We're going to go to picture sound. Now let's go. As you can see right now, I am in professional, so I'm going to go ahead and put that to standard. You'll be able to see my color is at 52, but usually I do keep it between 55 and 60, as you guys can see how good that looks. And the reason why I kept it on 52 was because when I was in professional mode earlier, I was just trying to play around with the color and just see kind of where I like it at and things like that. But I will say between 55 and 60, whether I'm in standard or professional mode, I noticed that's kind of where I like to keep my color on the A95L. Now let's go down to live color. So live color I do have on high. The reason why I have live color on high, I think for pretty much 99% of everything I use through the A95L or watch, is it just gives it more color vibrancy. I noticed through the A95L. It's like if I go without it, I just miss it. I don't like the way it looks. So I really like live color on high. I recommend everybody just keeping live color on high. Now for this particular setting, I do have color temperature on expert 2. I just feel like that looks really good. You guys can obviously change that to your own personal preference. As you guys can see, clarity, we have, oh, I don't know what happened there, but usually I keep, this is why I like going through the settings, but usually I keep sharpness down to about 5 or 4. I just feel like that's plenty. And as you guys can see, reality creation, I know a lot of people keep on auto, so I'm keeping it on auto for this one. It does a good job. I just don't really see it having as strong of an effect in 4K movies or HDR movies as I do when I'm watching something that's either SDR or HD. So just to let you know, that's on there. And smooth gradation is on low. But again, you can put that on high. And for me, in this particular comparison, I'm going to really keep it on high. And then you'll go to your motion. And as you can see, scene motion is on high. I do like that smoother look. So that's where I'm at there. Now, excuse me, let's go to the S95C. All right, guys, and then let's go to, sorry, And excuse my cough, guys, I apologize. But anyways, brightness is on 50, contrast is on 50, sharpness on 4, color is on 22. Now, color, again, is one of those things where really, for me at least, it depends on whether you're watching a movie or whether you're playing video games. It really does depend on even on what type of movie you're watching. But I've personally noticed that 22 is a good in the middle between 20 and 25. I just feel like for this type of movie, that's where it should be. I really like the way it looks, but again, everyone's different. You have your own personal opinion on that. Now let's go down and let's go to contrast enhancer. So contrast enhancer is on high on this, but I do, excuse me, usually keep it on low. The only problem is with me is that if it's on low or even off and then you're watching in filmmaker mode, I just tend to have a problem with that because it just makes the picture look so extremely dark that you can't even watch it. It's just kind of like unbearable. And I know that when I'm watching a movie like this, that's not what I want to see. So again, that's where you're at. And then HDR tone mapping, as you can see, is on static. You can change it to active. I did notice that sometimes when you change it to active, you can sometimes blow out the picture or wash out a lot of details a little too much with the S95C specifically. So, but contrast enhancer, you might think it looks a little blown out through the camera. It does not look like that in person, guys. Like the highlights you see right there, they look blown out through the camera. But I can assure you that is indeed not the case. I promise you guys that. So, but again, it all depends on what you prefer. So let's go back down to and turn this down to static. All right, and then as you can see, warm 2 is going to be my color temperature right there. And then as you guys can see, the rest, shadow details, we are in BT 2020. And that's where I'm at on the S95C. All right, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kind of, take all that time. But as I said, guys, this one is going to be definitely a little bit more drawn out of a video. So I do apologize if you're not into longer videos, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do in order to really show everyone what they want to see. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit play. All right, let's go ahead. And I want to stop. Actually, I think in the next scene. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to keep coughing. All right, let's stop right here. So this is a good scene to kind of talk a little bit about what my what I'm seeing in person. Now, as you guys know, that we are in standard mode, right? Actually, for some reason, I don't remember what mode I'm in. Yeah, I am in standard mode for the S95C as well. All right, so we are in standard mode in all three of these TVs. And as you guys can see, they look extremely similar. There's really not that much of a difference. Details look similar. Highlights look similar. All three TVs do a great job in standard mode. And if you're looking for like a nice vibrant picture or a nice vibrant TV when it comes to movies and watching content, things like that, I gotta tell you guys, I don't really see anyone being disappointed in any of these TVs. I just don't. Now, don't get me wrong, they might have their own pros and cons over each other, depending on, what your specific preference is. For example, the A95L and the LG G3 do support Dolby Vision, and the Samsung S95C does not. But at the same time, we are in HDR10, and a lot of times I personally think HDR10 looks way better than Dolby Vision. I just feel like Dolby Vision, there's just way too many variable issues, and HDR10 is more consistent in the way the picture looks kind of like across the board, as you can see right here. This is a perfect example of that. So that's just one of those things where, in my personal opinion, if you're looking for Dolby Vision, then yeah, I mean, you really only have two choices if you want to go with the top tier TVs. But at the same time, do you really need it? I used to think it was a deal breaker, and I'm just kind of like, as I go along and own these TVs for a while and watching Dolby Vision and watching HDR10, I'm actually really digging the way HDR10 looks a lot more than it does in Dolby Vision. I will say that. So I'm just starting to not be a fan of Dolby Vision. Their implementation just varies too much between different brands and different TVs and different TV technologies. I just really think that they're kind of all over the place. And HDR10, again, in my personal opinion, I just feel like they are more consistent. And although, yeah, you may see some differences here and there between them, that it's not as drastic as it is with Dolby Vision. Like just Dolby Vision, you got a lot of black level raising, a lot of green tinting within their algorithm. But with HDR10, you get a much more clear picture. The colors are more vibrant, and the specular highlights look phenomenal. The shadow details look phenomenal, and details within the highlights look phenomenal. You can't go wrong. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch this. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna switch this to excuse me, Fimaker. Let's go to Professional on the A95L, and then we're going to switch this to Fimaker on the S95C. So what I'm seeing right now is sorry, let me just back this menu out here, guys. I apologize. All right, so basically what I'm seeing right now is the black levels look to me the best on the S95C. I just think they look really, really good. Although some could say is crushing some detail, I don't really think it is, because you still see some highlights in the regions that are more black, where the highlights are supposed to be. On the A95L, I do see highlights, but it kind of seems like the highlights are getting blown out. And the crazy part is that contrast enhancer, I believe, is on unless it automatically turns it off. So let's go ahead and check on the S95C, and let's see if it did any changes. Yeah, so contrast enhancer is off, so I apologize. So that's one of the reasons probably why. I bet you if contrast enhancer was on, you'll probably see a little bit more blowing out of the highlights, as you guys can see. So now let's see what it does to the A95L within the settings. Excuse me, guys. We're going to go to the A95L. We're going to go right to picture mode. We're going to go to pictures, and then we're going to go to brightness. And we're going to go down. As you guys can see, HDR brightness is preferred, and contrast enhancer is on. So let's go ahead and turn that off. And let's go to HDR tone mapping and put it on gradation preferred. And as you can see, even with those off, it still seems like it's blowing out a little bit of those highlights in the A95L. Now, I'm pretty sure, yes, you can adjust it and fine tune those settings and change your black levels and things like that. But you gotta be careful when you do that, only because when you do that, you can crush other details that you don't want to crush. So there are going to be some sacrifices there. That's just what I've noticed in the past, just, you know, playing around with the settings. Now, if let's say you turn black adjust on, as you can see, it really doesn't make any difference in this particular scene. So we're going to leave that off. And there you go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back up to brightness. And there you go. All right. Now, let's go to the LG. And now the LG I like a lot because it looks very similar to the S95C. The highlights are good, even in filmmaker mode. I don't see too much of the highlights being blown out, but it just has a nice, even contrast to it, and it doesn't really blow out the highlights, as you can see in this particular scene. So now let's see what settings look like in filmmaker mode. All right, so we're going to go to brightness. All right, so as you can see, dynamic tone mapping has stayed on. Expression enhancer is off, which I manually turned off. Peak brightness is still on high. And as you can see, auto dynamic contrast, which I don't ever really like to use, is off. And that's pretty much it for there. And color stays there at 59. And we'll go to clarity, and as you can see, it did turn super resolution off. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back to high, and then I am going to turn that down, sharpness down to about 4. That's usually where I keep it. It looks like it changed my sharpness. And looks like real cinema is turned on, which I usually keep that off. And true motion, I'm going to go back to smooth movement. So you can see it did turn some of my settings off. As far as picture goes, you're going to see it really didn't make that much of a difference there in filmmaker mode, but there you go. That's pretty much what it looks like. And again, I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Do you like to keep your TV more in filmmaker mode, or do you like to keep your TV more in standard mode? If you were watching a movie like this, you know, very high-end CGI, super vibrant colors, saturated colors, and things like that. So let me know what you guys think. Now we're gonna go ahead and go to cut to another scene. So let me go ahead and press play. And I'm going to just forward a little bit here. Try to get to a different scene. All right, so this scene I really like to talk about right here. Let me just back up a little bit. All right, let me press play. Let me pause it right here. All right, guys, so I love this scene right here because it has a lot of dark regions in the picture, but also a lot of vibrant color in the picture. Like, look at how beautiful this picture looks on all 3 TVs. It's kind of hard to tell. So with the S95C, I do like the way the vibrancy looks in it. It just has this glow to it that's really unmatched. The A95L too, with live color on. So if live color was not on, you wouldn't be able to get close to what the S95C can do. And then when you look at the LG G3, it just has that 3D pop to it, and it's also very, very vibrant. You really can't go wrong with either one of these. And this is in filmmaker mode. So now what I want to do is I want to switch it to a mode that I think a lot of people will like, which is standard. Sorry, let me go back here. All right, so now we're back to standard mode. All right, and then we're going to switch to standard on the A95L. I'm so sorry, guys. I keep coughing. I apologize. There we go. Now we're going to switch to standard mode on the S95C. All right. So now that all three TVs are in standard mode, this is what I hope you guys are also seeing my point is just look at how much the vibrancy, the difference of the vibrancy is versus filmmaker mode. So it's like, to me, would you rather watch your movie like Avatar, Way of the Water like this, or would you rather watch it a lot more dim with less color vibrancy like in filmmaker mode? That's the difference to me. And you know what I notice is I also have a projector, a 4K, a native 4K projector, the XGME Pro, and I have, and I usually watch my content. Well, actually, the only time I watch it is on a screen that's 120 inches. And I will say that when I'm watching a movie through the projector, that's when I appreciate filmmaker mode the most, because it really does feel like you're at the movies when you're watching on a projector, even at home. It just gives you that whole vibe. But I think it's because it's under the correct circumstance where, you know, you have the same type of screen that you would be watching it at the movies. It's a projector. You know, it's just this, it feels like the same experience, and that's why filmmaker mode looks better through a projector onto a screen. So on a TV, I just feel like it's different. I feel like it's trying to look like as realistic as possible to what you would experience at the movies, but because it's a TV, you're not going to get that same feeling. So you rather, in my personal opinion, watch it in standard mode, or another mode that has a little bit more color pop to it, but just not oversaturated and not, you know, really truly blowing out all your highlights and all your details where it just looks ridiculous. You know, I don't mind losing my highlights or details in the highlights or blowing out my highlights if I'm going to be getting a picture like this, the vibrancy. But again, every movie's different. You know, a lot of times there's going to be you're going to be watching movies that don't have as much color, or they might be primarily a darker movie with a lot less color in it. So, you know, you're going to want to change your settings accordingly. But I'm just doing this for example. As you guys can see, look at how phenomenal it looks. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and switch to, let's try and see some other scenes here. All right. Oh, I'm going to back up actually. Excuse me. All right, so this scene right here is perfect. So now, all right, stars look great. Color looks phenomenal. Let me just actually forward this a little bit more. Motion, as you guys can see, looks phenomenal. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and back this up. There's two things I want to talk about here. All right, so I'm going to back this up a little. Oh, I don't know why it's not letting me back up. All right, I'm going to pan this one more time just so you guys can see. Look at how smooth the motion looks on all three TVs. Identical. Look at that. All right, and then we're going to stop it right here. All right. So, motion. Now, let me just tell you guys one thing. The LG G3 has great motion, especially in gaming. And it has really good motion in SDR and HD content. For some reason, I don't know if it's this particular movie or if it's on physical disc or what, but I've noticed that the G3 has the most judder out of all three of these TVs, and I've never said that before. I've really noticed this recently, and I had to put my motion a little bit more on the smoother end in order to prevent that judder, because normally I don't mind it. You know, when it's just normal 24 excuse me 24p, I don't mind it, but for some reason on the LG G3 it was just bothering me a little too much, where I just couldn't even watch it. It just looked like so many artifacts, and I've never said that before. That's my first time ever saying that. So, you know, I had to switch the motion settings to what you saw earlier. So that's just something that I wanted to talk about. But as you guys can see in that particular scene, the motion was just nice and smooth, and it looked perfect through all three TVs. So I really have no complaints with the A95L when it comes to motion. The A95K last year was just, I couldn't deal with it. It was almost unbearable. No matter what I did, I noticed, motion was just not great. I do really feel that the Sony A95L they went through strides to either change the motion, make it better for the A95L. Whatever they did, it is an improvement to me. So I just wanted to, kind of talk about that very briefly. Now, this particular scene, the second thing I want to talk about is the color red. So as you guys can see, the Samsung S95C and the A95L are very, very similar in red. The A95L. Now, here's the thing with the G3. The G3, and again, we are in standard mode, and I will switch it to filmmaker mode, so this will change. But if you're in standard mode, one thing I do notice is that the A95L does tend to hold the best detail overall with the color red. So like if you see how like the details right there in the red, where you have those black lines showing, you can see them the best in the A95L in between the color red. So it is just breaking up the color the best. It looks really good, and you really just can't go wrong, guys. This is why the A95L truly shines, is because its detail, its attention to detail and processing is truly amazing. It really, really is. And I know that a lot of people are saying it's not worth it. You're paying a premium for it and things like that. But you guys just know this is, I completely get it and I understand, and I'm with you. I really do understand. But when you actually look really close with these TVs side by side, and you really do notice a difference within fine details, and that's, I think, where the Sony A95L truly shines. The combination of the clarity, the detail, the color, it really just kind of covers all bases very, very well. And yeah, you're gonna pay a premium for that, and I get it. And most people will not want to, because you can get close enough with the with the S90C or the S95C and the LG G3. You can get close enough. So, and then there's other times where the LG wins too. I mean, sometimes for the majority of this comparison, I do think the LG G3 is the brightest TV in 4K in a 4K HDR movie comparison. I just feel like, when it comes to this color, the specific color red, you're gonna notice that QD OLEDs in general, that the red color, it's unmatchable. You can't. It is actually a full-blown beautiful red, and the G3 can't get to that level. And even if you were to turn the color all the way up as much as you can on the G3, it's still not going to be able to get to that level that reds can get to in a QD OLED like the S95C or the A95L. But the advantage of the A95L, as you guys can see, is that it just has more detail within the red. So like if you look, you're going to notice it breaks up the color really, really well within the black lines. And then you see kind of like that yellow strip in the middle. You see more color of that yellow in the A95L than you do in the G3. Now, let's go to color in the G3, and let's just say you want to turn that down because maybe that would help. Now watch this. It does help, right? You're gaining some more of that detail, right? But you're losing the color in the reds. You see that? You see how it's kind of like you're losing it? It's almost looking more like an orange, or a lighter or faded, kind of more washed out red. So that's what I'm trying to explain, is that there's just more sacrifice in the color red when it comes to the LG G3. That's all I'm just trying to say. So now the overall clearest picture, let's back out. Sorry. The overall clearest picture, again, is the A95L. The S95C to me is a close second. The G3, although it's the brightest and has the brightest highlights, still does look not as clear. It looks a little bit of more of like a white or washed out tint to it. And the crazy part is last year versus the A95K, the LG G3 blew it away. Just blew it away. It's not so much the case in this comparison. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and just switch it really quick to filmmaker mode. And I apologize, guys. I know I'm going long here. And I'm going to just do like one or two more comparisons, and then I'll let you guys go. I know you don't want to be here with me. All right, now let's go down to professional. And then let's go to, excuse me, filmmaker mode. Time flies when I'm doing these videos. All right. All right, so filmmaker. All right, guys, so right now you're in filmmaker mode, and you guys can clearly see that they still do look very similar. And it really just comes down to your personal preference. But in filmmaker mode, let's go ahead and it looks like the A95L has a little bit more of a blown out picture, like you're getting a little bit more halo around Earth there. But it might be because, let's go to the settings. Let's see if it's because of anything particular. Now let's go here and let's switch this to gradation preferred, and it is a little bit better, but it's still there, and it did tone it down some. So again, in filmmaker or professional mode, actually to me the G3 looks the best, and this is what I'm talking about. They just trade blows. and it's hard to tell, but you get more of a halo that shouldn't be there around planet Earth in the A95L. Now you can probably help that by changing some settings, but I'm not going to go through that right now. And the S95C also looks great, but what I like about the the G3 is that it is the brightest, and I just like the color of it. It has a more natural color to it with it still being vibrant. So that's just another personal opinion. Anyway, so let's go ahead and let's skip to another scene here. All right, so let's see. All right, we're going to skip here. Let's keep skipping. I'm trying to get to a certain scene that I'm trying to find. There was a scene that I was really trying to get to show you guys. I think I'm getting closer. I want to get into something that has a brighter scene. Here we go. All right. So now the colors are really popping right now on the A95L and the S95C. Another color that the G3 struggles a little bit with is the pink colors. But the advantage of the G3 is if you look at the grass, it looks brighter and on the G3 over the S95C and the A95L. Details in the grass look equal on the G3 to the A95L. I do feel like I am losing the most detail with the S95C, and I do find that to be the case a lot of times. Fine details, I notice, are very neck and neck, and they trade blows between excuse me, the G3 and the the G3 and the A95L. I noticed that details trade blows depending on whatever colors those details are blended with in the particular scene. But right now, I am seeing more detail in the pink on the A95L over the G3 and the S95C. One can argue that, you know, the G3 has a more natural look to it. But again, we are watching Avatar: Way of the Water. So I don't really know how natural they're trying to make their colors look because of the type of movie that it is. So my guess is that it, to me, would be more intended to make it look something like, let's say, the A95L or the S95C in this type of movie. But again, that's just my thoughts. Now you can go ahead, excuse me, and let's go and switch back to standard. And we're also going to go back to standard. And we're also going to go to standard on all right, guys. So there you go. So when you're in standard mode, I mean, honestly, can you really go wrong? Are you going to like complain that the pinks are not super pink like they are in the A95L or the S95C? You're probably not. I mean, just look at how good each picture looks. I think live color is what's making the pink look the most pink in the A95L. I think if you were to turn that off, it would look probably closer to the S95C, but still looking more pink than the G3. Again, that's, to me, has to do with it being a QD OLED. But at the same time, you know, they are going to trade blows. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next scene. All right, so let's go ahead and keep going. All right, here, I do want to stop here. All right, so this scene is important to me to stop to because as you guys can see how bright it is. This has to do with, I just want to just briefly talk about, you know, details in the highlights. So we're in standard mode and we do have certain settings on, as you guys will see. And now we're going to go here. And I just want to show you guys contrast enhancer. So contrast enhancer, as you guys can see, once you turn that down, this is the thing that for me is what contrast enhancer will not benefit being on from. When you're in a brighter scene, like in the sky, showing the sky, the sun, the clouds, things like that. Now, if you notice, even on low, and then you go back to high, you're going to notice that the the details get lost when they're on high in the highlight details, and then they're definitely a lot more noticeable when it's off. Even when it's on low, you lose detail. But if you look really close at the sun, look how much vibrant the sun looks when contrast enhancer is on high. So it's kind of like one of those things where you have to choose which one you're going to really like the most. But I would say the downfall to having contrast enhancer on is losing a lot of highlight details, like this example right here. And then we're going to go ahead and change it. Let's just keep this off, right? And now let's go back to Filmmaker mode. And then look at how good the S95C looks in Filmmaker mode with contrast enhancer off in scenes like this compared to the A95L and the G3. I mean, it is just a complete difference. So, you know, again, these things you do have to be aware of. Things can change, you know, and yeah, you can change your settings according to the type of, you know, movie that you're watching. But these are things that I just wanted to kind of bring out to you guys as far as what I've noticed. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the A95L. And then we're going to go ahead, and go to settings. And now we're going to go to brightness. You see HDR tone mapping, brightness is preferred. You can change that to gradation preferred. As you can see, there's really no difference there, right? And now, as you guys can see, contrast enhancer is on high. And let's bring that down. And now we're also going to put this in professional, and you will see that it also does a very similar job to the S95C. I would still say the S95C looks better in this scene. It just has this pop to it, this controlled detail control that it just looks amazing on the S95C. So although the A95L typically does overall look the best, I would say a lot of times it's not always as clear as day. The S95C will look better than the A95L in many scenes, and this is just one example of that. You still get more details within the highlights in the the S95C over the A95L. Now let's go to the G3. Excuse me. We're going to all right, expression enhancer. As you can see, it's on brightness. We're going to put that on detail, or we can actually go ahead and even turn that off. But let's look at detail first. I'll just do it from here. Let's go. All right. And there you go. Now, the excuse me, the LG G3 has, to me, a more natural look to it. It definitely has the details, but for some reason in filmmaker mode, it just looks a little bit more of a soft picture. I'm not getting that pop that you're getting out of the S95C or the A95L. So again, that's just what I'm seeing, guys. You do see very good details, or shadowed, I'm sorry, not shadow details, highlight details in the clouds. I will say that with the LG G3. But again, you know, it's the type of movie that you're watching that matters. And I just feel like for the type of movie that this is, the S95C is just definitely crushing it right here. So that's just, again, personal opinion. Now let's go ahead and skip to another scene. And I do want to show you guys not this scene, not that scene. All right, so let's stop here. I do want to talk about skin tones a little bit, because this is, to me, when the A95L also has a little bit of a struggle in lighter skin tones. Sometimes they can either look too red or too pale. But as you guys can see right now, the LG G3 just looks the best with skin tones. It doesn't look like has an artificial tan. It doesn't look like he's all greasy and sweaty. It just looks like the way it should look in real life. And that's what I love about the G3. Skin tones are amazing. Never looks oversaturated, no matter where you have your color. It just looks the way it should look in comparison to the S95C and the A95L. And that's just really what I wanted to make a point of, is the LG G3 is also the brighter TV in this particular scene right here, as you guys can tell. It's clearly brighter. So in most cases, the LG G3 is the brightest TV. And in most cases, I noticed the skin tones, especially in lighter skin tones, looking the best in the G3. Again, you know, the A95L does look great, but there are times where it is slacking. And I think in lighter skin tones, for some reason, I'm just not getting it. Now, as far as details in skin tones, that's a different thing. I think the A95L has the best details in skin tones, but as far as the actual color of the skin tones, I think the G3 does the best. All right, so now I'm just going to go ahead and skip. All right. I think this was one of the scenes I wanted to get to. No, not this one. I think it was this one here. And then I think I'll let you guys go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and forward this. All right. Just a little bit more. so let's keep going. I'm sorry, guys. Don't mean to. This is the scene right here. All right. Now, I just want to zero in on some colors here. And let's see if we can get there. Sorry, guys. Getting there. All right. All right, here we are. Now I'm going to back up a little bit. All right, well, anyways, let's see if I can back up this way more. All right, so as you can see, you have a lot of color here. The last point I want to make is just if you look at his face right now, the S95C just looks, you know, to me, at least the clearest picture out of all three of them right now. The S95C just has this clarity to it sometimes that really only Samsung has. The black level of his hair looks the best in the S95C. The contrast and the way his face just kind of pops out of the screen looks the best to me in the S95C. In the A95L, again, it looks good, but it just sometimes, to me, looks a little bit too washed out, and that's a perfect example of that. And on the G3, sometimes I feel like, you know, it looks like something in the middle between the S95C and the A95L, but it's just not as vibrant in color right now. So, you know, his face has, to me, the most definition on the S95C. On the A95L, for some reason, it just looks like it's just missing that. And then the basically what I'm saying is if the G3 was a QD OLED, it would look closer to what the S95C looks, but it doesn't because it just can't get to that color. But if it did get to that color, I think the blacks, like the markings on its face, would look similar to what the S95C looks, a lot more black knot. It looks a little raised. And then the hair too. So that's just basically something that I'm seeing there. You know, these things, guys, is, you know, they vary. It really does depend on what movie you're watching. You're going to have to change your settings. You know, I live with these TVs. I have had these TVs for months now, and I can tell you they just constantly trade blows. So it really comes down to personal preference when you can only choose one. I do have the privilege of owning all three TVs, and that's why I'm sharing my experience with you guys, you know. And a lot of times when you share your experience, you can really only talk about what you see, what you see with your own eyes, according to how you have your TV set up. And everyone's going to have their TV set up differently. So, and that's very clear as the way that happens. You can even go through the comments and you're going to see people telling other people in the comments that you're doing your settings wrong. This is the way it should be. This is the way it should be. But it's clearly not the case because you know what, guys? Honestly, if you're going to be in standard mode, or if you're going to be in any other mode outside of filmmaker mode, you're not going to be in a so-called accurate mode in the first place. So it doesn't even matter. If you really want your colors to pop when you're watching a movie, even if it's not a movie that has a lot of color, go right ahead and do that if that's what you prefer. It's fine, guys. There's no one's going to come to your house and kick your door down and arrest you because you're not doing it correct. These TVs are made so you can go ahead and customize them the way you want. You know, if you don't care about shadow details, or if you don't care about highlight details in the highlights and the clouds, or blown out highlights from the sun, and you rather have your color up more and your brightness up higher, then go ahead and do that. That's perfectly fine. It's not the end of the world. That's what you prefer. If you like filmmaker mode and you want something more accurate, well, you have that too. So you can go ahead and run your TV that way if you're not too crazy about, over brightened picture, or, colors that you may think are just too saturated. You can go ahead and bring that down if you want to. You can just flip it into filmmaker mode, or whatever, cinema, whatever you want. It doesn't matter. The only biggest thing for me is if you absolutely want Dolby Vision, you're going to have to go with either the the A95L, or the LG G3, because the S95C obviously does not have Dolby Vision. But, I would say in terms of overall brightness, when you're watching 4K HDR content, especially on physical disc, I mean, one thing I've noticed consistently is that the G3, even in this scene right here, especially in standard mode, will tend to get the brightest. But when you're, let's say, watching other content, you want more color saturation, you're probably going to go with the S95C. If you want, the overall fine details with QD OLED colors, then yeah, you're going to go with the A95L, and you're going to be spending that money. And it's really, truly that simple. I'm sorry that this video is going as long as it is, but there's a lot to say about it. But that's pretty much what I wanted to really talk about. And guys, we're already at the end of the year. 2024 is coming up with new TVs. It still feels fresh because technically the A95L has only been out for 2 months, since October. So it's still fresh to all of us when we compare these videos, because there's still people out there considering one of 3 of these TVs. And I just wanted to just talk about my personal experience with you guys. I hope you found this helpful. Again, I apologize for the long video, but when I do videos like this, they're going to be long. But thank you so much for watching, guys. You guys are the best, and I promise I do try to keep my videos shorter, but this one I knew was going to be a long one, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you.